Are we here? Are we live? We are. We are live. Welcome everyone to our book study group here in the John Lavenia Success Mastermind. I am John Lavenia. It is Monday, the 7th of February, 2022, and I am excited to be here with you as we start our journey with James Allen and the 8 Pillars of Prosperity. Now, I announced that we were going to cover half the book tonight. But let me just go ahead and admit to you all that I am not prepared to cover half of this book.
Good. Thank God.
Yeah, I got on with James. I started talking with James in the foreword and the introduction, the introductory chapter. And I was like, oh, I'm talking to James right now. Oh my goodness. All right, let me grab a dictionary. Because I'm talking with James. And I immediately got into study mode with this. And I was like, all right, I got to really listen to this guy. And so I just telling it myself, I got through the first 2 pillars, energy and economy. And that's as far as I got in this. So I think it's 8 pillars. I was thinking we could do 4 in 1 week. I'm thinking we do 2 per week. So if that pleases the group, we'll do this in four weeks instead of 2. I was thinking, well, it's short, but the writing is smaller. But the English it's up there, right? So, I mean, it's not the most complicated stuff in the world to read, but still, people in the 1800s and early 1900s had a better vocabulary. So, again, if it pleases the group, we're gonna put this one on for 4 weeks, and tonight we'll cover the initial chapter as well as the first 2 pillars, energy and economy. So, let's open it up. I'll tell you right now, for me, this is, hey, Stuart. Hey, Daisy. Hey, Lindsay. Hey, guys. Welcome. For me, this book has rekindled my love for James Allen. And it's all Stuart's fault, by the way, because, I was all happy reading all this modern stuff with like little words and short sentences. And then Stuart comes along and says, well, here's the entire, collection of James Allen stuff. So like, why don't you dig into that? I'm like, oh, thanks, man. It's kind of like when somebody recommends a TV series to you. Hey, do you watch that show? Now, if people say that to me, I'm like, no, screw you. I'm not watching that show. Because the next thing you know, I'm going to be watching, 7 seasons of reruns, like back to back. I did this, by the way. I did this with, what was that one? Walking Dead. Somebody told me about Walking Dead, zombies and stuff. Oh, you got to see Walking Dead. Next thing you know, I'm 5 seasons into it and my work's not getting done. Anyway, I digress. 8 Pillars of Prosperity. Thank you, Stuart, for the book. Thank you. I love James Allen. Love. I love his insults. I know, Missy, you love his insults, right? You people living swinishly, you're swinish living. I'm like, man,
lazy.
Who says that? James Allen.
I spew you out of my mouth.
You sinners, right? So anyway, who's got some thoughts on these first couple of pillars?
Well, I was waiting for the Twilight Zone episode.
Okay.
But since there wasn't one, I was forced to read it. And honestly, I told Missy, I said, I'm not going to say much tonight. There's not really that much to say. He's very direct. He's as subtle as a punch in the jaw.
Yeah.
And it's all fundamental common sense. You can't get any more commonsensical than he is. And I want to put to those who are a little more advanced in this genre of literature, the question, is he like the first to do this sort of self-help literature?
No. No, this would be post Goethe and on the American side, Emerson. So James Allen, sort of modernized some stuff and created a bit of a bridge. And here comes guys like Waddles and then, Napoleon Hill and those guys. But no, this would, I would say, be a transitional, late 19th, early 20th century.
Well, I was coming to the conclusion that this is the granddaddy of them all.
Hmm,
That everything else is pretty much derivative from this.
okay.
And it's almost the blurb that you see, if you read no other book but this one,
Ah,
this is the one you have to read.
Well, he Neville Goddard it. He said the physical world is just the mental world made visible, or something like that.
We talked about the continuum. So like, half the circle is, it's still a whole circle. It's not like it's a different circle. It's still, you're only seeing half the circle. It's all one circle.
But you can see Neville Goddard studied this and put it to great use. And it's I love it. I mean, I just love the words. But it's just the same thing again. But you're right. I mean, promptitude.
Yes. Please show me your promptitude.
That's
I
a
mean,
Catholic school nun word. Your
Yeah.
D
Oh, yeah.
minus. But it's great.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Catherine, you've got a hot mic. You got some thoughts on these first couple chapters?
No, I was just impressed with his writing, just the
Mhm.
style of it, and he's very, very dense. And I
Mm.
was kind of with you. I think getting through 4 was a bit much.
Very good. I'm not alone. So for those
I
of you
almost said something when you were saying we were going to do 4 chapters. I was
well,
like,
I mean, if it's like As a Man Thinketh, pretty much chapter 2 is for me the whole book. But I mean, besides chapter 2, just rip through the book.
I don't know about you, but I felt like this just got better and better as it went. Like maybe the first half of chapter 1, or by the end of chapter 2, it really became more riveting. And then as the chapters went on, I was really just more and more impressed. And like I had emailed you when I sent you this, like when I read this, it made me realize what a truly remarkable writer Alan really is, right? And it's almost like you forget, because As a Man Thinketh is just so profound, but just sort of short and concise and really powerful. Whereas this, he elaborates on everything. His vocabulary is amazing, and he ties in, like Goddard, he ties in some scripture and some biblical aspects. He ties in some like Buddhism and all kinds of other things. Just really fascinating
Yeah.
stuff. Very impressive.
The most important thing he does is tie the physical mathematics to morality, business to morality. And that's the law. The world is becoming lost. It is losing its mind because they have given up morality. They refuse it, they reject it. And we see the effects of that every day of our lives. And their house is going to sink into sand, but they're taking us with them. But they even refuse math today, these people. 2 + 2. If you say it's 5, it's okay. That's your perception of 2 + 2.
You're talking about
And-
postmodernist relativism.
Well, he's predicting what
Yeah.
happens when this crap comes into being.
Right. But he also, you're right. He did even address, the even what did he say? An ardent socialist or something would reject, we'll find it here in the text. But let's take this up. Hey, Janet, good to see you. Let's take this up. I'm going to pull up the text here because I did highlight a few things, and it's just so rich. And like what you guys were talking about, he goes deeper. Like he substantiates each pillar, right? So it's not like, all right, here's the pillar. You see the pillar? All right, now here's the next pillar. No, it's like, and here's what this pillar is made of. Here's how you build this pillar. Whoa, right? So this is like really, really digging in now. So anyway, here's the text. Let's see what we got. So the preface. I thought this was interesting that he would start the book like this. This was 1911. So he's talking here about, the idea that came to mind as I was reading this is that you can't legislate morality. And I know that's an argument that a lot of people would like, some government, bureaucratic entity or something to tell them to go be moral and somehow be able to enforce that. Okay, but it doesn't work. And so what he's saying here is no legal enactment can give prosperity to, nay, it can prevent the ruin of a man or nation that has become lax and decadent in the pursuit and practice of virtue. So that means if you're a loser, no one can force you to win or legislate that you win. Doesn't work. Thank you. Thank you for saying that. To find moral principles is to have found prosperity, greatness, truth, and is therefore to be strong, valiant, joyful, and free. So whereas a lot of people have sought or somehow found whatever subjective evidence that there's virtue in poverty, what he's saying here is that it's actually moral and good and right. And this is a very Wallace Wattles thing to say, by the way, right? Wattles' book came out like 1 year before this one, that, you know, one of his, the Science of Getting Rich, 1910, as I recall. But it's a noble pursuit. Go get wealthy, or as James Allen is saying, go be prosperous. Because in fact, moral principles are the component parts of your prosperity. They are directly correlated and causative. And as I read this, you know who I was thinking of? You know, I'm not even going to say their name. It's they who shall not be named. I was thinking of some really nasty, evil, in fact, people who on the surface seem, well, they certainly got money, however they got that. And I was thinking, oh, I don't see the morals in that, you know. I mean, is even that subjective? Morals? Well, no, hold on a second. When I think of integrity, and I think of one of the definitions of the word integrity is adherence to moral and ethical principles. Moral and ethical. All right, so those are two different things, very closely related. Okay, but when I think of morals, I think of moral codes. There's a bit of agreement on that. Don't murder people, right? Okay, so if we're moral, then I guess we all agree that you shouldn't go around murdering people, right? That's immoral. Okay. Now ethics. Well, what do I know for myself is good and right in how I conduct myself? That can still be moral, okay? But my own ethics say don't cheat, don't murder, don't, you know, things like that. Okay. So and that may be an extreme example, right? I don't think any of you are at risk for running out and murdering people, okay? But just to give you like extreme contrast, right? But look at these immoral people. Immediately my mind went to, look at those immoral people who ostensibly are, you know, they got more money than me. But what are we talking about here? We're talking about prosperity. And so let me do a 3-finger click on that word. The state of being prosperous, okay, well, success, profitability, and all this. Okay, well, let's open in dictionary and let's look at prosperous. Successful in material terms, flourishing financially, bringing wealth and success. Okay. Etymology, late English, Old French, prosperous, from the Latin prosper, doing well, not just having. You may think I'm just getting into semantics and digging too deep, but this is an action. This is not a stop or a state of a static completion or something. This is an action. A prosperity is a flow. It's a doingness, doing well. And so when I think about that, well, how rich are these immoral people whose ethics are clearly worlds apart from mine? So let me suspend judgment, or let me just do like he said in a later chapter, and as Napoleon Hill reminded us, of closing our minds tightly to negative influences. Because look, I can't have an effect over there. If I'm looking sideways at what I think they should or shouldn't be doing, well, whose energy and attention am I investing in something where I have no causation there? I'm not responsible for that. And that was just the preface, guys. Man sees the processes in natural objects, here's that circle, and acts in accordance with them, but not seeing the spiritual processes He imagines that they do not obtain, and so he does not act in harmony with them. So all I can see is the bottom part of the circle. But there's a top part of the circle, right? So as above, so below, as within, so without. It's all the same truth. But this stuff with my 5 physical senses, I can see, I can work with. But this stuff here, well, let me ignore that. Let me practice ignorance. I lose. Okay, so if we're working with natural law, well, it's the same law, it's the same circle, it's the same stuff, right? And it's the same workability. Only by ordering one's deeds in accordance with fixed principles is perfect surety, perfect security, and perfect peace obtained amid the uncertainty of events and the turbulent tempests of life. So to me, this speaks of the certain way. How do you achieve the certain way, as Waddles talked about, right? Doing things in a certain way by ordering one's deeds in accordance with fixed principles. That's how.
Yeah.
Right? And whereas Waddles said, with purpose and faith, each action you do, right? We're talking about doing well, prosperity, right? Each action you do is done with purpose and faith. That's an orderly state, orderly movement. All success is based on order and movement, okay? So you can have order and no movement and nothing's happening, right? You can have movement and no order and you've got chaos, right? So order and movement. And now we're doing well with the surety and all these things he talked about. And he said, all this is very simple. The reader may say, yes, it's simple because it's true and perfect. So true that it cannot admit the smallest compromise, and so perfect that no man can improve upon it. So here's Missy, here's where he's talking about mathematics. Are you going to improve 2 + 2? Are you going to tell me something better or more profound or more workable than that? Do you have something more workable? I remember when I was in Diesel College, there was an instructor who said, now look, you guys, you're getting pretty good at this and that, okay, but don't take shortcuts. He said, if you've got a way that you think is better and faster to do this operation on this engine or whatever, first show me how it's better, faster, and also how it's safer. So that's the criteria. So you may think you've got a better way than what you just learned here. Is it also safer? So you can't improve upon this, and if you can, you need to prove it. Now here we're talking about, universal law and things like math, right? There's no man can improve upon it. Well, great. Well, then just work with the law, right? You don't need to get all, crazy about it. Yes, it's really simple. And he says here, it is as impossible to live successfully apart from moral principles as to build successfully while ignoring mathematical principles. So I'm going to try and build this house. I'm going to ignore physics and math and shapes and, sizes and whatever, and it's going to crumble all around me. You lose. And so when I think about, back to my earlier thought about those unjust riches, from the corrupt and whatever, and this is something that, injustice is a serious button. Like you push people's buttons with that. People get crazy over injustice. I get crazy over injustice. I hate it. Okay. And that's a pretty broad reaching, stimulant for a lot of people, right? It's really ugly stuff. A lot of people respond to that or react to that. So in this case, I have to have a bigger view, a bigger survey of the scene. I've got to see more of the reality that while this corrupt politician or person or whatever they're doing, right, may ostensibly have, worldly riches. Oh my goodness. Do you want to trade places with them? Do you want their karma? Do you want their, whatever you think, afterlife and whatever? Do you want that? And are they walking around in their bliss? I know that some of the people who have amassed great wealth have also been some of the most miserable people in the world. Now, that could be an excuse for a lot of people to say, well, you know what? I just want to be happy. I don't need all that money, that filthy lucre. Whoa, right? So we're talking about two different things. Now we're not talking about prosperity from the surveying of the bigger meaning of the word and what that all means. Yes, it includes money. And to think that somehow for me to as he was talking about in this chapter, for me to get rich, I have to go be immoral or something. He would be like, that's completely unworkable. And you can prove it to yourself. If you guys read the chapter, really dig in where he talks about the mathematical certainty of, here's how this works, right? If you're building a building in the world, right? Here's the house, and here's mathematically how the load bearing and all that. Cool. Okay. Well, it's that predictable. It's that certain when we get into the things you can't see. So don't look at the Joneses or the Bidens or whoever you're looking at to think, well, if that's what it takes to get rich, well, then, I'm out. Don't. All you see is that little tiny bit. And believe me, you don't want their problems. Anyway, he gets into, here I am talking. I think we're coming to the end of this chapter. I have 3 more highlights in this chapter, and then I'm going to shut up. But you got me going on this. It's all your fault. The fact that no one of moderate morality and intelligence can think of such a man as commanding any success. We're talking about the ne'er-do-well, the immoral, right? Should, to all those who have not yet grasped the import of these principles, and therefore declare that morality is not a factor, but rather a hindrance in prosperity. This is what I was just talking about. Be a sound proof to them that their conclusion is totally wrong. For if it was right, then the greater the lack of these moral principles, the greater would be the success. So in other words, if I'm here with this whole idea that to be prosperous, you've got to cheat others or be immoral, right? If that's the idea that I've sold to myself or allowed to be sold to me, then I'm as wrong, demonstrably wrong, as the person who says 2 + 2 is 5. It's that wrong for me to say you can go be immoral and experience prosperity. Mathematically, scientifically, wrong. Okay, so prove it to yourself. And this is such a powerful thing for me to read, because we can't see all this stuff. I can't know every thought that's going through the mind, behind the scenes of the person who on the surface appears to be successful, powerful, rich, whatever. I know for myself. So there you go. It's as sure as math. He who is to be greatly and permanently successful will pass through the strain of adverse circumstances and the fire of temptation with his moral nature not merely not undermined, but strengthened and beautified. So it almost reminds me, was it Nietzsche that said, that which does not kill me makes me stronger? So as I persist in integrity, adherence to moral and ethical principles, and yes, we walk through fire, but just like the brick, right, who made it through the furnace, and the iron, the steel, right, from the forge, from the blacksmith. Wow, how much stronger are we now? Not weakened, stronger. So principles. If we don't have that, then what do we just? Is this a game? Is this like a fake it till you make it? That's why fake it till you make it doesn't work. We're building on rock here, guys. I'll just shut up after I say this last thing I highlighted in this chapter. That harmony of the individual with his circumstances, which produces that satisfaction called happiness, and that comfort known as prosperity. That's the harmony we speak of when we actually apply this stuff. I like harmony. Anyway, let me stop sharing my screen and open this back up. We're already 24 minutes in. We got another pillar to cover here too. Who's got some thoughts on this? Oh, that wasn't even the first pillar. That was just the introduction. The 8 pillars. We haven't touched energy yet. All right. Anybody got some thoughts on the introduction? The 8 pillars? Yes, Missy, Bob?
So people, you got to raise your hands. You said earlier today that prosperity is it's a deeper word than wealth. These people are wealthy. There's no doubt about that, but they have no prosperity. They're immoral, they're amoral, and they're evil. And I'm concerned for our country because John Adams said our Constitution is fit only for moral people, and it does not work, especially when those in government are immoral and being listened to by people under them, like police and other. And so if we don't turn this ship around while we still have a chance, he was right. They knew these things. But that is what we have to keep in mind. We have to stick to our principles. Did you see those kids in Chicago today, what they did? An Illinois judge took down the mask mandate for the whole state, but this high school in Chicago said, no, you will wear your mask or you will leave the school. Every kid went and walked out. It's on film. They were like the truck drivers. They did their own version of the truck drivers. And that's what we have to do. We can't just sit idly by because the math on the other side is just as equal. If we do nothing, all the somethings will happen. And I just want to, not that I'm just stating the obvious, but that's the first people I thought of too.
Okay.
When I read this, and he couldn't have imagined the things that these people are trying to do. He would have been, he couldn't have believed it.
Well, hold on a second. History. All right. So I get, you're looking at modern socio-political happenings, okay, which is real and valid. James Allen, didn't show up on a fresh planet with no history, right? So there have been, kings and queens and tyrants and all kinds of stuff going on before James Allen. For that matter, right? We can go back, even more, right? Here's, Tom Jefferson and George and Ben and those guys, right? They also had history to look at. Okay.
Yes,
So
but the evil was not united as it is now.
no, hold on a second. Hold on. I think that's
all around the world.
Okay. I just think that's a bit presumptuous. Now they may not have had the internet, so they could, weapons of mass communicative destruction or whatever, but people in the nature of people, I don't think hasn't changed that much. Right. In fact, what you're saying, Missy, is that, we got to turn the ship around. Well, it starts right here. The component parts of any prosperous group would be prosperous individuals. Okay, great. So what part of this can you be responsible for? Okay. And so, yes, that's where you do something. You stand up not only for yourself and your own, success in life and everything, but also as someone with intent to have an effect, bigger than just you and your household, right? You can do something about that. It's not a topic for discussion right now, but yeah, I agree with you. Here's the problem though, that I see is that if I allow my attention to be fixated on, here's the injustice, here's the wrong, right? I mean, that's costly to my own psyche. It's costly. And so like Steve Covey said, right? There's your circle of influence, and then there's your circle of concern. Yeah, I got a lot of concerns out there in that bigger circle. Okay, how do I expand my circle of influence to consume more of that circle of concern? Well, I work within my circle of influence. Here's where I can have an effect. Great, I get bigger, stronger, more powerful in my circle of influence, and now that can expand out and affect more scope, right, and include more people. So that's the balance that I think, I speak for myself, that I got to look for. Yes, be aware, okay, but what part of this can I have an effect with right now? Does that resonate with you, Missy?
Yes, it resonates with me, but when the government is in treason, we have to face it. And I know this, I'm not talking about this, but if never before in history of America has a generation put up with a government in treason and not done something. And they were all willing to die to preserve this Constitution. And we were, well, we can't do anything. One of the guys I had an appointment with said, well, I'm not going to do anything. And if they want to put the jab in me will let them, and I won't even yell at them. I'm like, I almost said you're an idiot, they'll have to hold me down with a gun to my head.
Okay.
We have, at a certain point, we're going to run out of time to do something.
Okay.
And a movement needs a leader, and we don't quite have one, a movement like that.
Well, we've got quite a
It's a
few.
leader, but people are showing leadership.
We got quite a few.
Yeah.
So back to this book, and I'm with you. I get it. The circle of influence that you have is where you need to act.
I'm doing a little thing and I feel good about it, Mel. It's a
Okay.
little thing.
Okay.
It makes me feel much better than I did before I was doing it.
Okay. If I'm blowing all my energy on here's what's wrong, and there's nothing I can do about it, right? If I'm blowing all my energy on that, I'm squandering, which when we get into the next, the chapter on energy, right? And then the chapter on economy, right there. That's where we're going with all this. Hopefully we can even get through these next two chapters tonight, because just the forward and introduction has got this whole room lit up. We got Catherine's hand up, and Stuart and Linda. Hey, Catherine, come on out. Oh, let me also acknowledge Jackie's here. Hey, Jackie, haven't seen you in a long time. Glad you're here. All right, so Catherine, your thoughts.
One of the things that kept coming up for me a couple months ago, I think it was while we were reading Murphy, Bob was talking about the etymology of prosperity, and the word spare was Latin for hope. And so that's one of the things that keeps coming up to me, is linking morality and hope together. And I think that's something we really need to concentrate, especially now with everything that's going on, in the country and in the world, really.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess that was kind of it. That kept popping up to me, is he's talking about hope. Having prosperity is having hope.
Yeah, which is way better than what? Despair, apathy,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, sell me some hope then. Thank you, Catherine. And now let's back it up with action. Let's back it up with sound plans and orderly movement. Stuart. Oh my goodness, Stuart, we're not going to even get through 3 chapters tonight.
I know, dude. And I really was like, all right, I'll be involved. And honestly, like, I was cramming, like, to try and get as much, read and notes taken and everything. But I don't have my usual book report tonight, but I'm glad to hear that, we're going to take it in smaller chunks, especially as we progress, right? And I think later on, he kind of talks about the first 3 or 4 pillars are kind of one aspect, and then the other pillars require, the strength of the first 4. And so this concept, the analogy of building a temple, right? And not only does he kind of get into the mathematics of it, but he really kind of talks about the temple of prosperity, and you have to have a good, strong foundation, which is what I think the first chapter is about, this kind of moral character. And then without that, energy, economy, integrity, the other one, they got nothing to stand on, right? So unless you're a moral person, you gotta have that strong foundation. So I really do like we're building the temple thing, right? And just a couple things about this first one, and then we'll see if we can get into energy and economy. But moral causation and spiritual versus moral orders of causation, and that the same laws apply, the same principles apply. So whether you're talking about life or business or spiritual growth, right? Those universal principles apply in all spheres. And as long as you do whatever, as long as your pursuit is in harmony with or accordance with those natural laws or those principles, right, then your success is all but guaranteed, right? Or that you're well on the path. And I'll stop there so that you can get into the other ones. I see Linda's got her hand up.
Awesome, thank you, Stuart. And let's go to Linda and Jackie. Yeah, I said it's been a long time since I've seen you. You're actually a different Jackie. So welcome, our first time meeting. Hey, Jackie. All right, glad you're here. Linda, What say you, my friend?
Well, just because of the conversation that was going on, it was like, I mean, I didn't make it through the 4 chapters either, but I did make it into the 3rd chapter. And there was something that I highlighted in the 3rd chapter, which really stood out for me. I mean, is it okay to skip to the 3rd chapter?
Do
Or
whatever you want.
okay.
Yeah.
So the angry man is a strong man made weak by the dissipation of his mental energy. He needs self-control to manifest his strength. The calm
Yeah.
man is always his superior in the department of life and will always take precedence of him. Both in his success and in the estimation of others, no man can afford to disperse his energies in fostering bad habits and bad tendencies of mind. So every vice, however apparently small, will tell against him in the battle of life. Every harmful self-indulgence will come back to him in the form of some trouble or weakness. Every moment of riot or pandering of his lower inclinations will make his progress more laborious and will hold him back for scaling the high heaven of his wishes for achievement. So on the other hand, he who economizes his energies and bends them towards the main task of life will make rapid progress, and nothing will prevent him from reaching the golden city of success. So
Wow.
yeah, just that was so powerful to me, like, you know, being that calm person who has control and not letting that outside crap that's going on make you angry and lose your mind.
Wow.
So
Thank you,
That's-
Linda.
yeah, that's what stood out for me today.
Yeah. Was that in the chapter on economy?
Energy, I think.
Oh, energy. Right. So yeah, we'll get into that. So that's chapter 2, I think. Yes.
3.
Right.
No, wait.
So
It was chapter 3, whatever that is.
3, that's economy. Okay.
Economy.
Which is the second pillar, the 3rd chapter. Okay, good. But what you,
Yes.
Linda, what you were just saying is the like what Missy and I were just bantering about a little bit, right? So here's
Mhm.
all of these inputs screaming for my attention, and I've got to have the serenity, the tranquility, the calmness of mind in order for me to be effective, right? And that point of causation, as Stuart just reminded us, to be not aloof per se, but not have my attention fixated. In other words, to go out of economy. What is economy? It's the root of the word economy is the management of household resources. That's where that word comes from. So the management of resources. James Allen called it the middle road, or the middle way, or the middle path, right? So not too much this way and not too much that way. In the terms of like, we're talking about attention right now, right? And allowing myself the emotional run amok, right? Right. So that would be bad economy, bad use of bad management of resources. Okay, that's it right there. In fact, here's something my wife reminded me of. This was a couple of years ago because I would get so want to fight. I mean, there's so much wrong in the world. I want to fight. Okay, and what am I doing now? Am I giving attention to what I'm creating and my business and all this kind of stuff? No, I want to destroy. And she reminded me that you can't create and destroy in the same breath, right? So like, let's look at a corporation. So we have a lot of entrepreneurs here, right? And you're running an enterprise. Okay, so let's say that you've got, and you're not just a solopreneur or something. Let's say you've got a business and employees and whatever. And she said, well, in like a corporation, you've got a CEO, right? An executive officer, and you got other managers and stuff. And she's like, there's departments, and this sounds too simple, guys, but there's departments of like, product creation, sales, marketing, right? Delivery, customer service, right? These are all creative departments. They're producing, they're creating. And then you've got legal, right? Fight, destroy, right? So the sales department doesn't mingle with the legal department, right? They fight. You sell something, go create something. 2 different departments. and they don't mingle. May sound too simple, but great reminder. Great reminder. Thank you, Linda. Thank you for that. And you know what? Back to Missy. Here's something we can do. Right? You got issue with this stuff? Yeah, I got issue too. Here's what you do. Work in your circle of influence. Go make a pile of friggin' money and go ahead and flow some of that money over to the people who like to fight. They're professional fighters, man. Here, have some money. Right? Go fight. Who else? Welcome, Jackie. Jackie's like, this Lavenia guy's crazy. He's a crazy person. But no, I think my biggest expense every year is contributions to things that, you know, I'm not the guy doing the thing, but hey, you guys, here's some money, go do the thing. Anybody else? Or are we going to get into the next chapter here? Anybody else on the introduction? All right, we're at least going to get into the first pillar here, guys. First pillar. We got 20 minutes, not even. All right. First pillar. Thanks, James. You really got us going tonight. Chapter 2, the first pillar, energy. A couple highlights that I came up with just in this. So compared with the energetic man, the lazy man is not half alive. Even while the latter is talking about the difficult of, or I think it's supposed to be difficulty of doing a thing, the former is doing it. Now, I've been both, right? Here I am bemoaning, I got to do that. Oh, my story about it. And all the time I'm procrastinating, right? The amount of suffering, if I would just go do it, it's already done, right? So I've been on both sides of that. And so now what I'm attempting to do is demonstrate and instruct, you know, people I work with and you know, my child, right? My daughter, right? Hey, you know, the amount of time you take sitting around bitching about doing your work, right? You just get it done. And then that's it. Right now it's done, you know? In fact, I even, you know, with my wife, we're getting into a routine now where she's joining me at the gym and stuff, you know, and I've jokingly, I've said, you know, once we're leaving the gym, now that we've done our exercise, I say, now let's bitch about it. Let's talk about how much we don't want to go. I mean, now that it's already done, bitch all you want, right? Oh, I don't want to go to the gym. Oh my goodness, I'm busy. Oh, I got 10 million. Well, too late. You already did it. Bitch all you want, right? I do. As soon as I'm done, complain all you like, now that you've done it, but do it first. Here we go, Missy. Man, mentally and physically, is framed for action and not for swinish ease. All right. Bring that word back, everybody. Swinish. We got to use that more in modern parlance. The lazy man does the hardest work in that, avoiding the systematic labor of skill. He brings upon himself the hardest lot. Yeah, guys, it's a lot of work to be poor. It's a lot of work. I would have you either hot or cold. There's some scripture here, huh, Bob? Hot or cold. If you are lukewarm, I will spew you out of my mouth. You know, a marketing term.
That's the apocalypse.
Oh, there you go.
I believe it's the letter to the sixth church. So
Great.
Early in the book.
Yeah. So energy, right? Make a decision, damn it. Lukewarm, half measures, all this milk toast, half stepping and whatever. Oh, please. I will spew you from my mouth. In the business world, in marketing, you know, there's a saying, if you're vanilla, you're ignored. Okay, so you've got to polarize. You've got to decide who you're targeting. Here's my ideal target audience. Here's not my target audience. I am irresistibly, here's an affirmation for everybody. I am irresistibly attractive to my ideal customer. And with that same logic, I am repulsive to not my ideal customer. Yes, I am repulsive. Thank you. There's my affirmation, right? So now what did we do? We just saved ourselves a bunch of time. because we know what we represent, we know what we stand for, and we're not trying to be all things to all people, being vanilla or whatever. So interesting consideration. So energy, don't be lukewarm with all this. It says here, the call to action, which comes not only from the soldier, but from the lips or pen of every teacher in every grade of thought, is a call to men to rouse their sleeping energy and to do vigorously the task in hand. Again, this is the antidote for procrastination. And as we've studied in other books, right, procrastination and indecision go hand in hand. They're cousins, right? So when I don't know what to do, or I'm contemplating, or I've got all these considerations, I'm not doing anything. I'm just sitting here considering, right? Time is going away. I am not expressing my energy. I'm squandering time, which we get into in the next chapter. Okay, so to get more energy, we must make use to the full that which we already possess. Here's the parable of the talents, paraphrase. Only to him that hath is given. It should be only to him that hath or has is given. Only to him that puts his hand vigorously to some task does power and freedom come. So half measures avail us nothing. All right, we're either going to do it or not do it. Either way, that's a yes or no, that's a hot, that's a cold, that's not a lukewarm. Energy. With much talk, there is little doing. Talk could be internal, right? Here's all my considerations, not my decisions, just my considerations, okay? Working steam is not heard. It is the escaping steam which makes a great noise. So here's the person talking, and we've all experienced this, right? They talk a lot, they don't say a whole lot, but they talk a lot. Lots of steam, lots of sounds, lots of noises. But where's the action? Where's the statistics? I thought that was a beautiful metaphor. Working steam is not heard. It's that it's with letting off the steam. That's doing no work. Sure makes some sound though. Moving on, all weaknesses are betrayed in his presence. Oh, he's talking about the person of energy, right? All weaknesses are betrayed in his presence, and he commands by an inherent force, which calmness has rendered habitual and unconscious. In other words, if you read these paragraphs here, okay, talking about still waters run deep and the person of calm certitude, right, doing things in a certain way, being that causative person, that cause point, in other words, that effective person, right, cause, effect. So being the person who knows that they're causing, the results they're looking at creating, that intentional person who's got the fluidity of attention, not fixated on this or that, okay? But they can diffuse situations. And I think we've all experienced this. Hopefully you have, right? Think of a time when, BS just bounced right off you, like the water on the duck's back, right? Linda, I think that's your thing, right? The duck feathers, right? So like all weaknesses are betrayed in his presence. Like you can't hurt me with your talk, your nonsense, your whatever, right? And he commands by an inherent force, which calmness has rendered habitual and unconscious. So it's not even like I need to make an effort to do this. I just am this. I'm not trying to be something. I already am that powerful person, that person of energy, to which the excuses bounce right off. The weaknesses are betrayed. It's fantastic. My goodness. Thank you, James. Calmness, as distinguished from the dead placidity of languor, is the acme of concentrated energy. I love it. Love it, love it, love it. Here he gives us some of the, here's your promptitude. I'm not going to go through all this. Hopefully you've read all this for yourself. Promptitude, vigilance, industry, earnestness. This reminds me of some of the Ben Franklin writings, right, where he talks about the virtues, industry being one of them. Promptitude was not enumerated, but it is here. So I think I did. Yeah, here was one thing. To talk of having to kill time is almost like a confession of imbecility. Thank you, James. This guy doesn't mince words, huh? So you killing time? Are you an imbecile? Let me stop sharing my screen. My goodness, we only got 10 minutes left in the hour. Jackie, do you have any thoughts on this? I mean, you're brand new here. You're probably in shock right now. Wow, people have conversations like this. Yeah, we do this every week. Do you have any thoughts you want to throw in? We're going to yield the floor to you. If you want to say anything. My coffee cup is empty. That just happened. No, you don't have to. Yeah, here she is.
I'm just listening and taking it all in. I have this southern voice that I don't like to speak very
Oh,
much.
please. Oh, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. You and Lindsay. I could just listen to you and Lindsay all night. It's awesome.
Thank
Yeah.
you very much.
Glad you're here, my friend.
I told you the southern
great.
thing would be fun.
There you go.
But one day I'm going to talk as fast as John Lavenia.
No, impossible. Impossible. It's not going to happen. Never, 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 never.
Never say impossible.
All right. All right. Let's go to whoever else wants to talk.
I thought procrastination and indecision are cousins was, I mean, that's dead on. I mean, it's funny in a way, but it's like, yeah, they're definitely kin. And then I liked the affirmation you said, irresistibly attractive to my target customer. But like, when almost like when you are a positive person, you repel negative. I mean, you repel negative people. They can't stand to be around you. And it's really funny, just, so I don't know that I got that from it. I had more, but I don't remember now.
Okay.
So much. But yeah, this is really good.
Right. All right. Thank you. And yeah, that whole indecision thing, that was just having read Think and Grow Rich 13 times so far. Yeah, I kind of started to put it together. He's talking about indecision. He's talking about procrastination. What's the enemy here? It's the same thing, right? So, okay, good times. Thank you. Let's go to Janet, our favorite calligrapher in the universe. Hello, Janet.
Well, thank you. So one of the things that I wrote down in this chapter, and thank you, because this is the only chapter it was longer than I thought. He's kind of upholding the person doing, he's saying that if you're strong and you're doing and you're going forward and you've taken the wrong road, you can correct and get on the right road. So, I mean, that isn't what he said, but he said, the greater the sinner, the greater the saint. Wow. All things have their end in action. All are perfected in you. So if you're not a lukewarm, but you're on either end of doing, and if you found out that you're just on the wrong side of the stick in a way, then you cut new channels for your energy to flow through, and then you go in the right direction. So I would say he's upholding the doing person, whichever direction you're going, you will correct and you'll go in the right direction. But you're kind of in the habit and the flow of doing. It's not like, well, I'm going to sit around until I find what direction is right. I'm going to go with what I think is right. And if it turns out to be, then I'll do new channels and I'll put my energy there.
Right. Yes, because you're not an inanimate object. You're not just a math equation. Yes, you can write your course, right? I think you mentioned the bigger the sinner, the bigger the saint, right? So here's Saul of Tarsus, here's Paul the Apostle, right? Same guy, but that transformation contrast, I guess, Janet, is what's coming up for me. Like when you do your calligraphy, right? It's not like a smudgy kind of, I'm not quite sure, right? So no, it's black and white or parchment and black, right? However, whatever colors you're using, but you can see it's crystalline, it's definite. It's definite.
Right. It's not just
right,
but it's really purposefully formed and working toward a goal.
Right. There you go, guys. It's that definiteness. It's that decisiveness. It's the same principles we've been working with other books, right? It's just, here's James Allen's version of it. Stuart, again, thank you. thank you for this book, man.
Oh,
This
nice.
is- yeah. Why don't you wrap it up here tonight, Stuart, or anybody else who wants to wrap it up? Come on up.
I got a couple of things I'll say about energy. And again, I mean, I took a lot of notes, or at least, I mean, I highlighted a lot of stuff, but I didn't go back and kind of transfer that. And these chapters really, again, they're chock full of gold. And I really like the way that he breaks it all down into, you know, what are the components of being successful and prosperous. And then he further breaks these things down. And I was saying in the chat earlier, just when you kind of, and these chapters are deceivingly long, right? And so, you know, you're reading, you're like, oh, wow, this is cool stuff. And then like, just when you think you're done with the chapter, he's like, and these things are the things that make up the pillar. And then it's like, he goes into this whole, you know, kind of sub classification of each of the components or facets of each of these pillars. So, you know, when I think about, and I'm really just shooting from the hip here, but when I think about energy in terms of prosperity and success, you know, I think about, again, being conservative with your energy, or being discerning with your energy, and what you do with it, and how you put it to use, and not wasting it, right? And he brings in the concepts of, you know, the laws of thermodynamics and things like that, and, you know, which is, again, really amazing references for the time that this book was written. But the concept of we need to be focused on what we're doing. You only have so much energy, right? He talks about time in one of the later in economy, right? But this concept of you only have, you know, so much energy, and so you should be frugal and thrifty with it, and you should put it to good ends versus wasting these things. I love the, again, promptitude. I was like, yeah, buddy. And, you know, he makes references for each of these things, but for promptitude, he's like the person that shows up, and even like I think he uses the term, you know, the master and the employee, but, you know, the boss that shows up early and sets a good example. And of course, I thought of you just in terms of the example that you lead for everybody in terms of showing up, right? And you know, you just constantly hammer that into us. But you know, the kind of person who's prompt is going to inspire others, you know, especially teammates and people you work with, to also be on time and be discerning with the energy that you're putting out. Vigilance, we talk a lot about in terms of, you know, being the protector. I think he uses even the word the detective about something, but just the protector of, and in Stoicism and in other you know, philosophies and other books we've talked about, you know, being the vigilant guardian of your mind. And of course, we can't forget that we're dealing with the man who wrote As a Man Thinketh, right? And so really, you know, as we think, so shall we be, right? And so, of course, he's telling us, you know, to be careful, to be vigilant about, you know, what we let into our sphere. And you know, I think we can't hear that enough, because as easy as it is to say, oh yeah, that's a cool concept, right? But over the course of the day, with all the things that, and you know, and he uses sort of these like almost like warrior-like terms, and later he talks about the shield of integrity, and of course I think about my friend John Lavenia, right, and things like that. But you know, being vigilant against things that are attacking us, and you know, he uses these analogies constantly about you know, the evil that waits for the crack in the armor, you know, to invade, right? And I thought that was awesome. And then when you know, when he talks about industry, you know, that's an interesting concept for me. You know, it's definitely an old world term. You know, in terms of the way I think about success and prosperity, right? Industry, right, to me conjures up, you know, other images, right? And then he talks about like, it's more about the process, I think, is the way I'm starting to look at that. And I think he even talks about like how much we sleep, right? And he gets into that later in economy and moderation and things like that. But just industry to me is like the process of how all these things work. And again, when we're talking about energy, it's about what are we going to choose to put our energy into? How are we going to conserve our energy? Where is that energy best put? And then earnestness, again, is a concept that I even had to look up. I was like, really, what is he meaning by being earnest, right? And I think it was like, being focused in what you do with intention. And correct me if I'm wrong there. Somebody look that up. But then he drops some stuff like earnestness is the path to immortality, right? And he kind of drops, unlike Goddard, where he'll name drop a little more often. He'll kind of do this, a great teacher once said, right? And I kind of dig that. But he's like, a great teacher once said, earnestness is the path to immortality. I'm like, well, who is that great teacher? And at first I started looking up like Bible verses, and eventually I came up with it, and it's from the Dhammapada, and it's like the Buddha's quotes about earnestness. And there's this whole section about that. And I put aside a couple little things that I'll just share before we close out. Earnestness is the path of immortality. Thoughtlessness is the path of death. Those who are in earnest do not die. Those who are thoughtless are as if dead already, right? And there's a whole trip about this on earnestness in terms of the Buddha. So I really just appreciate his well-rounded approach, his understanding of different philosophies and different paths. And even like Bob and I were dropping in the chat, like, wow. And he even said like mental jujitsu. I think he must have coined that term. I mean, right? We've talked about like mental kung fu and all these different things over the years. Like 1908, here comes James Allen, mental jujitsu. Who the hell knew what jujitsu was?
Well, I mean, these weren't cavemen though, right? I mean, it's like, the 1900s. Jiu-jitsu's been around for a while, yeah, right?
Sure. But again, late 1800s might have been when the East really started opening to the West, right? I mean, yoga didn't really come to the West until Yogananda and some of those guys, right? And so just very interesting, very impressive. My love and appreciation for James Allen increases with every sentence I read it. So thanks for, I'm glad I brought it to our attention, but thank you for sharing with us and going over it with your insights.
Thank you, Stuart. And for those who don't know, hold on, let me show it again. Hold on. If I can carry it, it's so heavy. Oh my goodness. Stuart sent me this. Look at the size of this book. Look at this. James Allen's entire works. Thanks again, Stuart. Really cool. And because all this stuff is out of copyright, we can just look at PDFs for free. So that's that's awesome. All right, guys. Any last words? We're a few minutes over. Good to see you all. Again, welcome to our new members. Of course, this was brought to you by the paying members of the John Lavenia Success Mastermind. Go check out jlsuccessmastermind.com and grab yourself a trial membership if you're seeing this on YouTube and just visiting or whatever. We'll be back with more thrills and excitement and hopefully no fist fights next week for Chapter 3, the second pillar of James Allen's 8 Pillars of Prosperity. Hopefully we'll cover 2 pillars next week. So the next 2 chapters, all right, economy and oh crap, what's the next one? Well, whatever the next one is after that. All right, guys, have a great day, great night. We'll see you again real soon.